Chapter 1743. Before Luo could ask, "How did you know?" that person's kiss landed on her lips. The breath on his lips seemed to have an unknown fragrance. It was like the smell of roses at dusk. But he never used men's perfume. Luo was still wondering if all young bodies were like this. He had removed the suit on his body. She could feel his rising body temperature. It wasn't his. It was hers. He seemed to have no temperature. But because of his coldness, it made her heart palpitate easily. Luo didn't resist intentionally. She suspected that no one could resist him. His aura, voice, and face were enough to make it hard for people to reject him. She was an adult. She wouldn't panic when such a thing happened. Most importantly, it was because of her personality. However, in her mind, it wouldn't happen so quickly. She had a cold personality. She probably wouldn't be too passionate in this aspect. She had never thought about it. She didn't have anyone close to her. She had a fiancé a long time ago. It ended before it even started. Because of what he said, she didn't treat him well enough. When she was busy, she didn't look for him. She wouldn't take the initiative. Hence, the two of them just watched a movie. In the end, she found out his thoughts. Rather than saying that someone else intervened, it was more accurate to say that their relationship was thin. Sometimes the strange thing about men is that if you found out his mistake, you would break up with him. Instead, he would be reluctant to let her go. He would even try to persuade her to stay. He would say things like, "I don't like her. You are always like this. My novelty is almost gone. Why don't you let me touch you?" Luo wasn't very strict when it came to such matters. Since she was an adult, it was a natural thing to do. She looked at the man who was also successful in his career. She placed her pen down. "We are not suitable." That person hated her. She was ruthless. There was a period of time when people saw her and asked her if she was too cold in that aspect. It had been a long time. Even now, Luo could only remember bits and pieces of it. She remembered that someone had suggested that she find a younger man as well. Now, it really came true. When Luo looked up, her neck was slender and beautiful. Bo-in wasn't satisfied. He bit her ear gently. "What are you thinking about? You're not paying attention." Luo didn't know how to focus anymore. When she felt the numbness, her mind went blank. He buried his head in her neck and said, "Don't move. I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself and bite you." Luo could feel the sensation brought by his white teeth. They were a little sharp and a little itchy. They seemed to be able to suck away all her energy. She wanted to take a look, but he held her wrist and interlocked their fingers. He seemed to like her reaction very much. He chuckled beside her ear, his voice husky and sexy. He picked her up and let her sit in his arms. Her clothes were already in a mess. His breath was still in her ear, and his voice didn't stop. "You used to like this position the most." Luo didn't say anything because if she opened her mouth, her voice would be intermittent. It was a very hot body temperature and waves of numbness, but he did not seem to feel tired at all. Luo slowly lost her strength. She wanted to escape. But he pulled her back. His thin lips landed on her neck again. Chapter 1744. Her consciousness started to drift away. It wasn't common for her to feel like her body wasn't under her control. She wasn't sure if all young people liked to bite people. However, he liked to bite people. He didn't make her feel uncomfortable at all. Instead, even his blood seemed to have found its most primordial calling. Luo didn't have a place to place her hands. She could only grab the cushion of the sofa. Even the corner of her eyes seemed to leak out the unbearable numbness. The sweetness in his mouth made Bo Yin's eyes turn scarlet, but when he saw that the person in his arms was her, he held back and only tightened his arms around her slender waist. He chuckled huskily, "I told you, you like it a lot." Lu Luo rarely lived such a ridiculous life. From the sofa to the bathroom, then to the bed. The faint rose fragrance lingered in her nose. Sometimes, it made her feel as though she wasn't in a room. Instead, she felt as though she was in an ancient castle. After that, he didn't leave her. He knew how to take care of people. It didn't seem like his first time. Lu Luo was mentally prepared. She also knew that it wasn't her first time. However, she forgot who she gave her first time to. Probably because she was in a daze, he lifted her waist again and lowered his voice. "Why don't we have another child? It can help you regain your memory. However, this time, the child might follow me." Child. Lu Luo's consciousness hadn't recovered completely. The numbness was still lingering on her fingertips. "Another child." Bo Yin replied with a and kissed her on the neck again. The weather outside was slightly cold because it was autumn. However, the people in the house didn't feel anything. Even though the two of them were sleeping under the same blanket. Lu Luo had always been smart. She studied economics too. After she regained her consciousness, the first thing she said was, "I had a child with you before." Where? According to their age, the child shouldn't be old. Lu Luo liked children. Even though many people told her to be careful of the person she was raising, she still liked him. However, at this moment, Lu Luo was a little shaken. She even believed his words. Bo Yin lowered his gaze and hugged her through the blanket. "When you remember everything, I'll bring you to see her." Lu Luo was very tired but she didn't close her eyes. "You promised that you didn't lie to me, right?" "Of course." Bo Yin kissed the corner of her eye. Lu Luo couldn't bear to end this topic. "Is it a boy or a girl?" "A girl." Bo Yin's voice was low. "She's good at handling relationships." Lu Luo wondered if there was a generation gap between them. Are girls good at handling relationships? Yeah. When Bo Yin talked about his Lord Zhou, he would add a few more words. "You're very popular with girls. When they see you, they'll probably call you mother-in-law." Mother-in-law. Lu Luo laughed. She seemed to be thinking about something. Bo Yin knew that these things had to be slowly absorbed. She might not be able to accept this. However, Lu Luo was Lu Luo after all. She only smiled and said, "Even girls like their daughters. She must be very charismatic. It is indeed very fierce." Bo Yin looked at her. "Do you believe it?" Lu Luo smiled faintly. She was still a businesswoman. "It's not bad to have a daughter. I like girls a lot. When the time comes, I can buy her a beautiful princess dress." Bo Yin smiled and rested his hand on her shoulder. Lu Luo didn't understand. "Why are you laughing?" Chapter 1745. Lu Luo listened to his words. She was smart enough to guess that this matter wasn't simple. In the end, you'll see for yourself when the time comes. Bo Yin chuckled. "Our Lord Zhou has learned how to act like a lady in front of you." Lu Luo didn't know why, but she wanted to hear more. "Our Master Zhou. Her name is Zhou." "Bo Zhou." Bo Yin lowered his voice. If one listened carefully, there were some other emotions in his voice. "You named it. You said you wanted to be with Mr. Bo for a long time." Lu Luo leaned on him tiredly. "I don't remember." "It's okay." Bo Yin's voice was as pleasant as ever. "As long as I remember it." Luo's heart skipped a beat. To prevent herself from being affected, she continued the topic just now. I want to meet her. I'll take you there. Bo-Eun reached out and tucked her hair behind her ear. But it might scare you, so you have to be prepared before you go. Luo didn't ask him what he needed to prepare. Luo laughed softly. There are very few things that can scare me. Wait a little longer. Bo-Eun pushed her hair aside. She has a match to play. In Luo's imagination, the competition this person was talking about should be something like elementary school basketball. However, this didn't affect Luo's expectations for her daughter. She did believe his words. Many people said that she had never gotten a marriage certificate. But at the same time, no one could explain the years when she was abroad. Sometimes, Luo felt that she shouldn't be this old. Her friend next to her also said that 3 years had passed, but there was no change on her face. She asked where she bought her skincare products. Luo didn't use a fixed signboard. There was always an illusion. Her age was frozen at 31. But for this person, 31 years old shouldn't be young. How old was he? Luo couldn't tell. But definitely younger than her. The last time she saw him in a black t-shirt, she knew that. However, none of this seemed to be important. If what he said was not true. She also felt happy. This was probably what it felt like to have someone by your side. It was just that the physical relationship was a little subtle. This subtle feeling deepened when he woke up the next day. After work, a friend suggested a small gathering. Luo was always very efficient in her work. At around 3 p.m., she left the company and went to the cafe near the building. Sometimes, successful women on TV didn't fit reality very well. Women talk about love and family. Drinking coffee and eating dessert, most people would only give it to a wife who had a rich husband and liked to go shopping. In fact, that was not the case. The cultivation of a woman's temperament. There would be a unique laziness in the afternoon. The people sitting at this table were all doing well in their respective fields. One of them was preparing for a divorce. He was originally very engrossed in his speech. When he saw Luo, his gaze landed on her neck. He paused for a moment and smiled. What's going on? Didn't you say that you wouldn't touch the puppy you brought home? It's hard to imagine that even Boss Lu can't hold back. When she was in the office, Luo would button the last button of her suit. In this kind of place, she definitely wouldn't be too reserved. She didn't expect that there would be such a spot after taking off her jacket. In my opinion, that little puppy also picked up a bargain. It can't be just a bite, right? Dear President Lu, just say it. Could it be that you couldn't help it? Chapter 1746. Who said that you can't take care of it? I understand that you can't resist a fresh and young body. What do you understand? Do you think Boss Lu is like you? Her friends would definitely tease her. They didn't have any ill intentions. They were women in their 30s. In many people's eyes, they only knew how to gossip. In reality, that wasn't the case. They had their elegance and jokes. They could even relieve their stress. They also knew how to exchange resources. They wouldn't feel uncomfortable. The price to pay for marriage is too high. One of the women casually placed her hand on the back of the chair. She had a lazy beauty. It's better to be like you and find a happy man to take care of. Listen, are you being urged to get married again? My family wants me to marry a man with a stable job. When a man with a stable job sees me, he will think that I'm not doing my job properly. He will think that I'm a mistress. When Luo heard this, she took out a piece of tissue and wiped the corner of the woman's mouth. The woman smiled and leaned on Luo's shoulder. I'm a 5-element master. How do I look like I'm not doing my job properly? As expected, no one is better than Boss Lou. Don't get so close to Boss Lou. Boss Lou has a puppy. The other woman smiled softly and took off her glasses. 5-Element Master, you set up a divination under the bridge. Indeed, you look like you're not doing your job properly. The woman yawned. When I'm working, all of you are sleeping. Are you blaming me? The more I listen to her, the more she sounds like someone from a nightclub, the woman said. Come, help us find out the fate of Boss Lou and her puppy. The woman sat up straight and smiled. I can't find out Boss Lou's fate. Honestly, I'm very interested in her puppy. You look like you want to be a mistress. The woman smiled. I want to be a mistress. I want to snatch Boss Lou over. Before the puppy appeared, Boss Lou doted on me. Now, I feel that my status is being threatened. She dotes on you too. Luo smiled again. Her aura was outstanding. A joke between friends would always lead to the truth. Do you think he's trustworthy? Luo put down her teacup. Her aura didn't change. Let's take one step at a time. Why are you so nervous? It's nothing, it's all because I fell in love with someone younger than me. Don't you know that when he liked me, it was earth-shattering? He really liked me. When he didn't like me anymore, he didn't even dare to say it out loud and dyed my hair green. The most awkward thing was that when I saw the new girl he found, I even saw her during my training. The little girl kept crying to me, saying that I didn't do it on purpose. There were so many students watching, it doesn't matter if she cheated on me, but if the whole company knows about it, how am I supposed to manage people in the future? The woman couldn't help laughing. Ha ha ha. The person who spoke put away his notebook and glanced over. That half-immortal who swindled money, are you done laughing? Didn't you almost break that man's leg with a stick? Haven't you vented your anger yet? That's what I'm most angry about. I'm such a civilized person, yet you forced me to use a stick. Chapter 1747. Stop talking. My head is hurting. The woman called Boss Ran glanced sideways. I'm asking Luo to think carefully. Sometimes, it's troublesome to find a younger man. It's fine after the novelty is over. Look at me. Even young boyfriends want to go back to their wives. Who doesn't want to stay by Luo's side forever? That's true. But Boss Lou's little puppy doesn't behave normally. I've never seen a young boy who doesn't show his desires after knowing him for more than 2 months. That's true. That's why he's smart. He doesn't make his sugar daddy feel disgusted. That's why Luo won't be wary of him. Luo smiled when she heard this. He is indeed trying to make me less wary of him. He said that we had a child in the past. Child. The eyes of the other 3 women on the table widened. Luo added a piece of rock candy into her teacup. You don't believe him, right? He's bragging a little too much. The fortune teller sat up straight. I can't even handle it. Luo lowered her gaze. She was still a businesswoman. That's why I want to follow him to take a look. You probably want a child, right? Boss Ran placed her hand on her chin and said, I saw you stop when you passed by a children's shop. Luo nodded. She didn't hide anything. Children's accessories nowadays are quite good, especially that little keyboard. I feel that if I really have a child, I'll give it to her. She will definitely like it. Boss Ran shook her head. Give your child a little keyboard. Only Luo would think of such a thing. However, even Luo didn't know why. She would stop when she saw the little keyboard. She would hold her briefcase and look at it for a long time. She even missed a meeting. This little puppy's level is too high. The fortune-teller shook her head and pulled Luluo's thoughts back to reality. Luluo slid her finger across the rim of her cup. He said that our child has a competition in Milan. Competition. Milan. The fortune-teller played with her hair. What a coincidence. My idol is going to Milan to compete in the international competition. Luluo glanced at her. Your idol. My big spade. I'm telling you, my big spade can't be any more handsome. The fortune-teller revealed her fangirl side. Especially when she was doing frog jumps. Her hair was still curled up, and she had a devilish smile on her face. At that moment, I understood why you guys like girls who are younger than you. She's really handsome. My heart skipped a beat. As a big sister fan, I've completely fallen for her. Luluo didn't play games, so she had no experience in this area. Hence, she wasn't sure. But it was rare to see a friend so excited, so he asked with a smile, World Championship? Basketball or tennis? No, it's esports. The fortune-teller felt that she couldn't explain it clearly, so she took out her phone and wanted to teach Luluo about this. At the same time, she wanted to recommend her Adonis. The person next to her stopped her. Let's get back to the topic, okay? Now, we're talking about whether the child that the little puppy mentioned really exists. It's not a bad idea to go and take a look. The woman wearing gold-rimmed glasses crossed her legs. Let's see what tricks the little puppy is playing. Luluo didn't reply immediately because she received a message from her private number. The screen lit up. He didn't finish reading the first one. Another message followed closely behind. Where? Chapter 1748. Women are smart. At this moment, Luluo's private number rang. It definitely wasn't work-related. Your little puppy. Luluo replied with an okay. She tapped the edge of her phone twice with her fingertips before replying, I'm not at the office. I'm with my friends. Do you mind being surrounded by people? In the next second, the other side sent another message. I don't mind, it's my honor. Luluo smiled when she saw this. They were right. Her little puppy was very cunning. However, from the perspective of recruitment, who wouldn't like someone who made others feel comfortable with their words? Luluo felt that the market lacked this kind of talent. If she met him, she would definitely poach him to the company. Boss Lu actually smiled. The fortune-teller was still joking. Indeed, the power of love. What did I say? Did I start to stick to you again? These young people are all like this at the beginning, but yours did take a long time. After Luluo sent the address, she kept her phone and met her friend's gaze. He's coming to pick me up. You will see him in a while. Coincidentally, the four of them had known each other for 2 years. No matter what the love life was like. At the very least, it was a form of approval. It's good to meet him. Let's see what kind of little puppy stole my boss Lu's soul. Luluo smiled softly. I want to get your opinion. I knew my boss Lu didn't abandon me. The fortune-teller tilted her head and rested her head on Luluo's shoulder. She clenched her fists tightly. Don't worry. I will definitely help you with your research. Luluo glanced sideways. She seemed a little nonchalant. He's learning C language. He should have just graduated. Everyone present understood. Previously, when they made friends, at the very least, they found the kind of people that they would meet frequently. In terms of economy, even if there was a gap, it wouldn't be too big. Luluo was probably different from the ones they knew before. After all, he didn't like to go out to play and only liked to stay at home and wait for people to come home. No boy could do this. They had heard Luluo answering the phone a few times. She gave them the feeling that she was very obedient. Moreover, Luo said that he learned C language, so he should be a bespectacled tech guy. They were not the only ones who thought so. Even a young girl who was walking over thought so. She had an outstanding-looking man on her arm. However, the man's gaze was fixed on Luo. That was why the young girl smiled. I didn't expect to meet Sister Lu and Sister Ran here. Sister Ran, were you just talking about Sister Lu's new boyfriend? Learning C language. The young girl furrowed her brows slightly as she spoke. This doesn't seem to be suitable for Sister Lu. Too many people in our school who study this have no future. Luo opened her mouth and held the cup of tea in her hand. As long as I think it's suitable, it's fine. The point of this matter is not whether it's suitable or not. As the young woman spoke, she glanced sideways. She saw that the man's gaze was still on Luo. Even if you are looking for a new boyfriend to heal your injuries, you should be more serious. After all, Sister Lu is already old. Heal. Whose injury is it? Luo's aura was probably like this. Even if he were to sit down, he would not be affected in the slightest by the style of a high-end businessman. It seemed to be saying, you really think too highly of yourself. In front of me, you are just a toy. Very few women give people this kind of feeling. However, Luo wasn't an ordinary woman. She herself caused people to be curious. After all, she managed to develop her company to such a scale in just a few years. It was really rare. Now, she just raised her eyebrows. That was enough to make the man realize that he had never gotten close to her. Even in terms of aura, he was inferior to her by a large margin. To be fair, if he didn't get conquered by such a woman, he would be destroying his pride. You really haven't changed at all. The man's face was gloomy. Even his words were filled with sarcasm. She is just giving me some suggestions. The young woman seized the chance and comforted him softly. Don't be angry. After she finished speaking, she looked towards Luo. Sometimes, I really don't understand you. Why didn't you cherish such a good man? Why did you have to keep a pretty boy as your mistress? Now, it seems like everyone likes young men. I hope that Sister Lu won't be like your friend beside you and be cheated of your money and body. When Ran Qing heard this, she wanted to use her rod again. Luo's voice was calm. When we look for boyfriends, just like how the person beside you looks for you, we like young men. This is normal. When the young woman heard this, her expression instantly turned ugly. What do you mean by this? Are you comparing me to the person you are keeping? If it's certain someone wasn't coming soon. Usually, Luo wouldn't have replied to this. To her, this process was boring. However, when someone paid attention to someone, they would think that someone else paid attention to them. Except for her friends. The other onlookers were the same. They looked as though they were watching a good show and wanted to see the world in chaos. The rumors spread like wildfire. If she didn't reply, people would say that she still had feelings for this man. Even now, she didn't take the initiative to say that she still had feelings for him. If she replied, people would say that she overestimated herself and fought with a young woman. It was quite funny. What was she fighting for? She wasn't interested in these things. She wasn't even interested in the young woman in front of her. This was probably the difference in age. The difference in mental age. No matter what it was, if she didn't understand the situation, she would make a big fuss about it. In the eyes of others, this might be courage. She was fighting for what she wanted. The louder one was, the more reasonable one was. When could she get rid of this concept? Those who liked to spread rumors and were liked by others were quite interesting. Luo glanced at the people next door who were tiptoeing and looking at them. She could see that they were taking photos. She knew that some people liked to gossip. They would even use their own subjective consciousness to judge what kind of news he was spreading. She glanced sideways. Her voice was still calm. "You are thinking too much. You don't need to compare yourself with me." The young woman scoffed. "I'm the one who was chosen by him. This is the truth." Lu Luo felt that perhaps she was really old. She couldn't communicate with others anymore. She put down her teacup. "No one wants to compare themselves with you. Have you ever thought that if you say these things to me today, people will say that we put on a big show because we are fighting for someone else? Is this the truth? The truth is that I'm protecting my boyfriend. He's young, but it doesn't mean that he's a pretty boy. In my eyes, he's more than 10 times better than the man beside you." The moment Lu Luo finished her sentence, a voice came from the other side. Chapter 1749. "I'm very happy to hear you complimenting me." That voice had an indescribable magnetism to it. The moment he appeared, he caught everyone's attention. No matter who it was, after looking back, they would feel a sense of astonishment. The man was wearing a black jacket. His trousers reached his ankles and revealed his fair skin. He gave off a mysterious and sexy vibe. His face was so exquisite and handsome that words couldn't describe it. He was tall but didn't make people feel that he was thin. Instead, he gave off an indescribable dark aura. As he got closer, it became more obvious. At this moment, his friends only had one reaction. How was this a little puppy? He was obviously a wolf. His eyes didn't look like the soft and coquettish type. Although this person was young, he gave off a feeling as if he knew everything clearly and attentively. Especially when his gaze fell on the young girl, that feeling was even more obvious. He raised the corner of his mouth and smiled. Then, he walked to Lu Luo's side. "It's too cold outside. I bought a scarf for each of your friends." Bo Yin raised his hand as he spoke. The scarf brand was very famous. However, the price wasn't something ordinary people could afford. The man beside him said, "It's interesting to use Lu Luo's money to buy gifts for Lu Luo's friends." Bo Yin glanced down and smiled. "It's our joint property. We won't split our money." The mockery on the man's face became even more obvious. "You still have the cheek to say that? Not everyone can live off a woman." When Bo Yin said this, he played with the black ring on his little finger. "For example, young Master Zhang. You are probably busy balancing your accounts." In an instant, the man froze. How could this person know about his matters? Before he could get angry and question him, young Master Zhang's phone rang. It was his father. He didn't dare to pick it up. "Is there a man with a mole at the corner of his eye standing in front of you?" Young Master Zhang replied, "Yes." His father lowered his voice. "Why did you offend him? Do you know who he is?" Young Master Zhang wanted to say something. However, his father was faster and interrupted him. "You just need to know that he is a respectable person. Soften up a little, then come back." When young Master Zhang heard this, he didn't dare to ask any more questions. He didn't even know how to imagine someone whose identity even his father was afraid of. But this was clearly Lu Luo's little boyfriend. "Dad, did you make a mistake somewhere?" His father only said, "I told you to come back." At the end of the day, young Master Zhang was someone who relied on his family. He had to listen to whatever his father said. When he looked up again, he was just about to speak. The man continued, "Looks like you received a call from your father." At this time, young Master Zhang's face could no longer be described as ugly, but he felt a kind of fear. This person, really, the young girl wanted to say something, but she was pulled back by young Master Zhang. They left in a hurry, as if there was some scourge behind them. The other people didn't know what happened. All they could see was that they didn't know what Lu Luo's little puppy said to young Master Zhang. Young Master Zhang, who had always been arrogant, actually retreated in such a manner. Chapter 1750. Where did Lu Luo find such a person? She heard that she picked him up from the roadside. Since when was there such a high-quality handsome guy on the roadside? As expected, these women were the hardest to fool in the industry. If they were still young, they would probably believe that people were picked up from the roadside. However, at their age, they would be rational enough. What was the background of this little puppy? This was the first thought in their minds. Everyone had brought a scarf. Some of the boyfriends wouldn't even think of this. In the past, when they heard Lu Luo talk about the existence of this little puppy, they thought that he was trying to show that Lu Luo had money. After all, they had come into contact with many realities. Basically, this was the case. But now, they weren't so sure. It was because of the aura he emitted. It could be said that there were very few people in this world who could live off a woman so confidently. Their aura didn't weaken at all. Ran Qing didn't avoid it. She wanted to speak directly. However, the fortune-teller behind her suddenly pulled her. Her pure face was so pale that it looked as though it had lost all its color. What's wrong? Ran Qing looked back. The fortune-teller seemed to be worried that someone would see through her, so she only said one sentence. I'm not feeling well. She thought that she wouldn't be discovered by the other party. That was because she really couldn't divine the birth chart of Boss Lu's little Nai dog. This was simply unimaginable. However, the fortune-teller didn't expect that when she opened her mouth, Bo Yin's gaze landed on her. Bo Yin's gaze landed on them. That was obviously a casual attitude. However, there was a darkness at the end of his eyes that sent chills down one's spine. The fortune-teller froze. For some reason, she really wanted to ask Boss Lu why she treated this person as a little puppy. Logically speaking, a person without a fate was either dead or a demon. However, this person wasn't an undead spirit. His shadow and spirit energy were both present. The more the fortune-teller couldn't read him, the more uncertain she felt. Especially when the other party seemed to know who she was. This made the fortune-teller bite the bullet. While the other party was still chatting, she stretched out her hand. He stretched out his hand and said, "Manager Lu, take this." Lu Luo looked over. It was a Buddha pendant. It was carved out of sandalwood. However, there was a faint fragrance coming from it. It was the smell of incense that could often be smelled in temples. Just by looking at the color, one could tell that this Buddha statue pendant was fundamentally different from the ones sold on the streets. Didn't Boss Shang order this from you last time? Lu Luo didn't take it. The fortune-teller said, "I'll go get it for him." You need it now. Lu Luo raised her eyebrows. I need it. Buddha statue. The others also looked over. After all, they knew the fortune-teller very well. Under normal circumstances, she would give someone a Buddha statue because there was something dirty next to it. But Lu Luo. Bo Yin just sat there, the corners of his mouth still curling up in a mischievous smile. It was as if the topic of conversation had nothing to do with him. However, when the fortune-teller mentioned this matter, his scalp went numb. Well, this thing doesn't necessarily need you to be in danger. Just treat it as a guarantee of your safety. When she said this, she subconsciously avoided those deep black eyes. Lu Luo was still considering. Chapter 1751. The great fortune-teller's body stiffened. She gave Lu Luo the Buddha statue so that she could be wary of this little puppy. If he was really someone she didn't know, she would let him know that Lu Luo had something to protect herself. However, He was not afraid of the Buddha statue at all, and even used his hands to catch it. Just as the fortune teller was beginning to suspect that she was overthinking things, a voice suddenly rang out. Bo-in had already turned his body and personally placed the Buddha pendant on Lu Luo's neck. The women looked at each other and said nothing. However, just as Lu Luo was about to leave, the fortune teller whispered into her ear, "Be careful, you little puppy. I really can't see through you." Lu Luo understood what she was saying. She smiled and said, "I understand. You have to watch my idol's video. I'll send it to you. Since you're going to Milan, you might be able to see my idol." The fortune teller immortal knew that Lu Luo was smart. Hence, she wouldn't say too much about certain things. Avoid letting her have a psychological burden. Plus, among the few of them, when they met Lu Luo, they knew that she was calm and rational. She knew how to analyze the pros and cons. An ordinary person would not be able to trick her at all. Now, the fortune teller was worried that the little puppy was no ordinary person. Out of the coffee shop. It was already dark outside. The night in the north would always be covered with layers of fog. Even when he opened his mouth to speak, his voice was white. But the man seemed to be unable to feel the cold. The thin black windbreaker, the fair side profile, and the slightly tilted breath had a kind of rose fragrance, but also like the smell of blood. He didn't know who said that. Sometimes the blood would give off a sweet fragrance. And at this time, the man had this kind of vague feeling. Did my performance just now pass your friend's test? Bo-in lowered his eyes and asked casually. Lu Luo glanced at him and removed the scarf he gave her. Then, she raised her hand and wrapped it around his neck. She circled it once, twice. "It's okay." It was rare to see a woman with such a cold aura like Lu Luo. Her appearance changed, but her aura remained the same. Too many people say that in real life. No matter how powerful a woman is in the workplace, they all had to know how to submit in front of a man. Because women who acted coquettishly had the best lives. However, it was obvious that Lu Luo wasn't that kind of person. She was tall to begin with. After she put on the coat, she had a cold aura, like the first snow that whistled past. However, her face was not cold at all. She was smiling faintly, and there was a hint of indulgence in it. It just depends on whether you are obedient and smart enough. The fortune teller had once said that Chief Lu had long hair, long legs, a thin waist, and a large chest. She should have had an enchanting appearance, but she was like a lotus on the top of a snowy mountain. Even her eyes were indifferent like water. Many people in the business world would talk about her. Because she never wanted to take the initiative to participate in the affairs between girls, she would naturally be accused of being a white lotus. Lu Luo was only interested in earning money. She wasn't interested in the same direction. However, even she herself had never thought that one day she would find someone younger than her. Lu Luo didn't want to develop a deep relationship with him. However, things had already gone wrong. If he told her what he wanted, she would not mistreat him. After all, he was younger than her. Chapter 1752. Bo-in smiled. "I understand, madam." Lu Luo glanced at him when he said the word madam. Her fingers stopped. Before Lu Luo could speak, Bo-in interrupted her. "Madam, do you want to abandon me after using me?" Lu Luo knew what he was talking about. She retracted her hand and smiled. "Is this how you use the word abandon?" Bo-in hooked her slightly messy long hair. "Am I not your little puppy? My master left me at home after waking up. If this isn't abandoning me after using me, what is it?" The man spoke casually. Lu Luo paused for a moment. "How much did you hear?" "They told you to be careful of me." Bo Ian took her hand and stuffed it into his windbreaker. I've heard everything I need to hear. Lu Luo glanced at him. They don't have any ill intentions. I understand. Bo Yin's voice was calm. They care about you. They are not bad friends. Lu Luo smiled. She reached out and caressed his head. You are more mature than I thought. That's why you shouldn't watch videos of other people's male idols. Bo Yin smiled faintly. They won't be as milky as me. Lu Luo didn't expect the topic to be like this. After this conversation, she realized that this little puppy had a possessive nature too. Where are you, Milky? Lu Luo looked at him as he walked to the outermost position. Under the streetlights, his face looked even more elegant and handsome. Bo Yin smiled. I listened to you. Since you left in the morning, I have been staying at home. I didn't go anywhere. Don't you need to work? Lu Luo looked at him. Bo Yin's voice was lazy. I'm going to bring you to see my daughter. You can do your work when you come back. Lu Luo paused for a moment. She stood in the darkness and looked at him. Do you really have a daughter? Yes. Bo Yin, who was wearing his coat, reached out and hugged Lu Luo in his arms. In the past, she liked to fight with me for you. She wasn't as obedient as me. Lu Luo smelled the pleasant scent on the young man's body. Her thoughts seemed to be in a mess. What woke her up was the bats wandering around under the streetlights. It seemed like these bats had been following them since the beginning. Bo Yin followed her gaze. Then, a trace of redness flashed across his eyes. The bats seemed to have received some kind of order and immediately disappeared into the night. Bo Yin retracted his gaze and asked knowingly, what is it? Nothing. I must be thinking too much. Lu Luo glanced sideways at him. I'm hungry. What do you want to eat later? Bo Yin didn't seem to mind. Either is fine. Lu Luo pressed the key and opened the car door. Pick one. You. He was already holding her hand. At this moment, he lowered his body and his breath hit her ear. His slender fingers even slid across the mark on her neck. I want to eat you. It wasn't that there wasn't any resistance. It was as if this person had the ability to make people lose their ability to think. This was probably what the emperor meant by lust. That night, Lu Luo experienced the benefits of being young. However, she had to pay the price. She had to wear a turtleneck sweater the next day. There was also a slight ache in his waist. He seemed to dislike sunlight. Lu Luo didn't open the curtains. It was just that she would always think about the daughter that he had mentioned. Hence, she paid more attention to Milan's recent competitions. Hence, during lunch break, Lu Luo couldn't help but click on the link that the fortune teller had sent her. Chapter 1753. The first thing that entered Lu Luo's eyes was the river and bushes in the game. She also saw the characters that she didn't understand. Lu Luo smiled faintly and shook her head. She wanted to close the video. However, at this moment, a shadow suddenly appeared on the screen. Like moving clouds and flowing water, it swept forward. Even though Lu Luo didn't watch games usually, she understood the situation. The blue team had a huge advantage. They had more people too. The red team didn't have a high chance of winning. Was he going to charge forward alone? Lu Luo raised her eyebrows. She didn't press the button anymore. She just took a sip of her coffee and watched quietly. At that moment, the shadow dashed into the crowd. He appeared and disappeared like a ghost. He first knocked down a person. Then, he turned around and dodged the opponent's attack. Then, he dashed forward again. Double kill. Triple kill. At the same time, the shadow appeared. He had arrived. But in the next second, he stood up again. He led the group of kids behind him and broke into the enemy's city. It was a beautiful victory. Lu Luo didn't stop smiling. However, she still wasn't interested in the game. But the screen shook for a moment. The camera suddenly focused on a face. It was the face of a youngster. There was a mole at the corner of his eyes. His lips were curved and he was smiling. Strangely, Lu Luo's gaze froze. A blurry image appeared in her mind. However, she didn't have any impression of what it was exactly. Lu Luo paused for a moment. She couldn't help but search for more information about the youngster. There were both negative and positive ones. Lu Luo was a businesswoman. When she saw such videos, she just glanced past them. Besides some videos in which the youngster appeared, she didn't click on the rest. However, she only wanted to take a look at the links. She couldn't stop at the end. When the assistant came in, she was obviously surprised. Boss Lu never watched these videos and posts on the internet. Today, it seemed like there was no end to it. Occasionally, Boss Lu would ask her a few questions about the game. The young assistant stood at the side and teased her. She felt like she was dreaming. After all, Boss Lu looked cold and didn't seem like a normal woman. This wasn't a derogatory term. It was because of Boss Lu's aura. She was decisive and efficient. When she wore a professional suit, she looked like a gust of wind when she walked. However, she didn't make people feel uncomfortable. Her smile was clear and faint. There was a kind of person that you would know the moment you saw her that she was not easy to approach, and you would not be resisted to her. Their Boss Lu was such a woman. The assistant couldn't imagine a day when she would sit in the conference room and not look at data reports, but something else. The assistant girl didn't dare to move at first, but after an hour, she came in again with something. She couldn't help but glance sideways. He couldn't help but let out an "aw." Lu Luo looked up at her. The assistant girl immediately apologized. Sorry, Manager Lu, it's fine. Lu Luo glanced at the hot American coffee she brought in. Just put the coffee down. The assistant did as she was told. She hesitated for a moment before asking, Boss Lu, do you like Spade Z too? Lu Luo smiled faintly and replied, yes. The assistant was even more excited, but she didn't dare to show it too obviously. After all, it was work time. She only whispered, I like it too. Chapter 1754. When the assistant girl heard this, she stretched her head over and let out another, before saying, this is the sticker that was given to us when we watched the competition tickets. Where can I buy it? Lu Luo was very direct. The assistant explained that the stickers weren't for sale. It was a gift from the team at that time. The ones that were profiting from it were all fake. Boss Lu, you can check the official website to see if there are any pillows for a lucky draw. The assistant girl's suggestion was quite reliable. Lu Luo didn't think that she would get it. Do it with the attitude of just trying it out. He didn't expect that he would really get a pillow. The assistant girl was so envious that she wanted to cry. Lu Luo was in a good mood too. It was just that the pillow was a little too big, and it didn't quite suit her temperament. When she half-hugged it, it was inevitable that it would be more conspicuous. Therefore, it naturally attracted a lot of discussion. Is Boss Lu really in love? Definitely. Otherwise, why would he hug a pillow? Didn't they say that Boss Lu's boyfriend is younger than her? He does look like someone who would give her a pillow. I think he's downstairs. Who? Boss Lu's little puppy is so handsome. The person who said this was still in a trance. He's outside the building now. Luo was a little surprised when she saw the man. After all, he never came to her place of work. Even if he really came, according to their previous relationship, he would tell her. However, Luo didn't have time to think about this. That person walked over with a pure black umbrella in his hand. When the first snow fell, it looked like a scene from a manga. It was just that there were very few people holding umbrellas at this time. This made the figure even more slender and tall. "It's snowing. I'm here to take you home." Listening to such a sentence. How could Luo say that he had broken the rules? She only looked at the thin windbreaker on his body and wrapped the scarf around his neck with one hand. She didn't care if she would be talked about by others. Even though there were her subordinates in the crowd. Bo-in smirked. It was obvious that he liked this way of announcing things. Many people were watching. After all, no matter if it was Bo-in or Luo, they would be the scenery if they stood there. Moreover, there was also the element of gossip here. "He's really handsome. I just hope that Boss Lu won't end up like Boss Ran. I'm just raising someone else's boyfriend. What's the use of being handsome?" That's true. Which boy would like someone older than him? Maybe he has one in university and found a sugar daddy outside. Bo-in stood there, the smile on his face deepening. He glanced down. He heard a series of shouts from the other side. They did not know that a group of vampire bats had suddenly appeared and were circling around them. It was really frightening. Luo looked towards the source of the sound. However, she didn't manage to take a closer look. The man placed the black umbrella over her head. "What are you holding in your hands?" "This?" Luo wasn't interested in looking at other people. However, the group of bats caught her attention. Recently, she had seen a lot of bats in the city center. Because she was thinking about something, when she replied to Bo-in, she seemed a little distracted. "It's the bolster of a young male idol. It's very cute. Little Prince Charming. Very likable." Bo-yin's black eyes turned to the side, and there was a faint light in the corner of his eyes. The corners of his mouth were still half-curved, but it reminded people of the word darkness. Chapter 1755. 9. Bo-in paused, his slender fingers poking the pillow. Luo noticed that he was different from usual. "What's wrong?" "No." Bo-in curled his lips. "I just think it's not bad." Luo smiled. "It's rare that you know how to praise others. This is worth praising." Bo-in didn't stop smiling, but his voice was much lower. "After all, you know how to fight for favor from a young age." Luo didn't understand. "Ha! Did you fall in love with this little male idol because she and you both have tear birthmarks?" Bao lowered his voice. "If you look closely, she looks a little like me." How could this be explained? But now it seemed that it did look like 3 points. Luo's gaze landed on the pillow. Bo-in tilted the black umbrella in his hand and kissed her in that position. Even with the umbrella's cover, the office workers who passed by could not help but gasp. That scene was too beautiful. Luo paused. She heard him laughing softly beside her ear. "Anyway, after you have me, don't think about anyone else. I will get jealous." This was probably what it was like to fall in love with someone younger than oneself. The other party would tell him everything. He would also hide something. It was just like what his friends had said. He had already met her friend. But he had never thought of bringing her to meet his friends. Young girls might not have thought of this. If he really wants a long-term relationship, he will definitely involve you in his life. Luo understood, but at the same time, she also understood another logic. They weren't going to last long anyway. So even if she was kissed. Lu Luo smiled faintly. Then, she raised her hand and rubbed his head. She looked like a businesswoman. Bo Yin raised his eyebrows and raised his hand. Let me help you with the bolster. You have an umbrella in your hand. Lu Luo really liked this bolster. My assistant said that there are other things, but there aren't any places to buy them. You can only get them when you watch the competition. When we go to Milan and meet our daughter, let's bring her to take a look. Bo Yin looked over casually. I don't think we need to bring them. Lu Luo felt a little disappointed when she heard this. She really wanted a child. But this answer was obviously saying that he wanted to say something. The child he spoke of might not necessarily exist. Even if he didn't completely believe it. There was still an indescribable feeling. After the two of them got into the car. The calls never stopped. All of them were asking her about her love life. Lu Luo turned her face and helped him wrap the scarf around his neck. Don't come to the company anymore. When Bo Yin heard this, he smiled slowly. His eyes were filled with hostility, but he suppressed it all and said, okay. Under the streetlights, there were also faint bats flying past. That night, Lu Luo's entire body was sore. That person still looked devilish and evil, but when she asked him to stop, he had no intention of stopping. Even his teeth seemed to have penetrated into the blood vessels in her neck. As the numbness spread, all his thoughts were floating. Enough. He pressed her against the head of the bed. His voice was like the night outside, low and heavy, with the scent of roses in his breath. Not enough. I'm hungry. Lu Luo's breathing was a little unstable. Her long black hair fluttered in the wind. She looked beautiful and gentle. The man kissed her ear and smiled. Eat me. Chapter 1756. 2 in the morning. Thick fog rose outside the window. Outside the villa, under the streetlights, the bats didn't leave. Lu Luo was in a deep sleep on the bed. She was so deep that she didn't realize that the person hugging her had disappeared. The scent of roses was very strong. It seemed to be mixed with the smell of rust. One of them transformed into a child. He knelt on one knee in front of Bo Yin. Young lord, the competition will start on the 10th. There will be a fan meeting in Milan on the 8th, Madam has been added to the list. Bo Yin long grunted lazily and spat out the blood bag in his mouth. The child stood up and raised his head. Why didn't you let me transform into young lord's appearance when she was young? That way, you won't need to explain. Even if the queen's memory is gone, you can create a memory for her. After all, no human can accept that they aren't a human anymore. That's what the queen said. Bo Yin's pale and long fingers held the black umbrella. Different from the day, there was no warmth in his eyes now. That was natural. He smiled evilly. Only Jiao can't. She's our child. What about her memory? The child puffed up his cheeks. He still didn't understand. Bo Yin threw the blood bag into the bin. She can't do that. Why? The child didn't mind killing people. To them, humans were just food. Let alone the memory of a human. Bo Yin's figure was tall and slender. His black trench coat fluttered in the wind. Because I'm in her memory. The memory I created is fake. The child understood a little, but he couldn't understand why the king loved a human so much. In the past, he said that it was because of her body temperature. But to revive a human. To awaken himself. It wasn't just because of her body temperature. Bo Yin didn't need to explain his feelings to anyone. Bloodling. It had always been like this. Plus, he wasn't just anyone. He was Bo Yin. If it wasn't for his master Joe's talisman, maybe he would be the only one left in this world. Now, she just lost her memory. She was still under the streetlight a second ago. She could appear beside the bed in the next second. This was one of the Bloodling's abilities, teleportation. Such a person was willing to cover up everything for one person. Bo-Een didn't know what human love was like. Long after she picked him up, he didn't want to let go of this person again. Bo-Een quietly lay back on the bed and hugged her from behind. He thought she was still talking. However, he heard someone say, "It's so late. Aren't you cold if you go out?" Bo-Een's fingers paused. Then, he brushed aside her long hair and smiled. "It's very cold. When did you notice that I was missing?" "Just now." Luo looked over. Bo-Een hugged her and lowered his voice. "I was afraid you would be hungry, so I cooked some noodles for you." He thought it was just an excuse. When Luo was carried to the dining table with the blanket, there was indeed a bowl of noodles. Braised. "You don't like it?" Bo-Een let her sit in his arms. "No." Luo wasn't used to such intimacy. "Why don't you sit opposite me? It's too cold on the other side." Bo-Een passed her a pair of chopsticks. "Try some." Luo smiled faintly. "I thought you only know how to cook noodles." "Yes." Bo-Een put his chin on her shoulder and said casually, "If you want to eat something else, I can learn." Chapter 1757. Ha! Bo-Een raised his eyebrows. He didn't say anything. But Mr. Bo, a vampire, showed an expression that said he was hungry too. His acting skills were really good. Luo looked at him and raised the noodles with her chopsticks. Bo-Een smiled and lowered his head to eat. A bowl of noodles was eaten by two people. Even the fluttering snow in the night seemed a little more beautiful. Her friend's message was still in Luo's phone. She was also talking about the fact that this person would never introduce his friends to her. Luo glanced over. She only saw the scenery outside the window. She wanted to find a time to talk to him. But she was always busy with work. She rarely had time to think at night. The culprit was the person beside her. He liked it very much, watching over her while she cooked. Luo didn't know if other people would behave like this when they found a lover younger than them. This one of hers was very clingy and overbearing. She discovered the latter because someone sent her a message on WeChat. That person wasn't someone else. He was Luo's so-called ex-boyfriend. However, it was this piece of information that made Bo-Een's eyes darken. The other party sent a message regarding work. Luo always separated the two of them. She went out to meet him. When she met him, there were other people around. When she went out, that person was still fine. Luo didn't expect him to meet him right after the meal. That person was there. It was probably because it was Halloween. Even the decorations on the streets had a faint atmosphere. There were jack-o'-lanterns everywhere. Some people were wearing a pair of ears and some were wearing masks. Only a young man was holding a black umbrella in the snow. His trench coat looked cool. He would always stand out from the crowd. Luo saw him and looked over. The person standing beside Luo frowned and said, "Let's go and find Boss Lee to talk about venture capital." Before Luo could say anything, the person standing there looked up and looked at her. Luo turned her body. "It's okay. I'll bring my secretary over another day." As soon as she finished speaking, she strolled in Bo-Een's direction. This time, he didn't wait for her. When he saw her coming, he turned and left. Luo followed behind him. She could tell that he was throwing a tantrum. She was wearing a white professional suit with a jacket. She was definitely wearing high heels. Luo's beauty had this kind of commercial vibe. She was completely different from the passers-by. She followed him for a while and said in a low voice, "Are you going to keep walking like this? I can't keep up." Bo-in glanced back. Because of his skin color, people would always think of the word devil. He stood there, looking at her as if he was stating a fact. "I waited for you for a long time, but you didn't come back." Luo paused for a moment. She walked over and held his hand. It was cold. "I sent you a message. I said that I have a social gathering and I want to eat outside. What's there to eat with that group of people? Today is Halloween, and you're not even spending it with me." Those words were a little rebellious. "I haven't even eaten anything. I've been waiting for you since I opened my eyes." Luo paused. "What do you want to eat?" "I'm not hungry." He was acting out of spite. Luo looked at the person's side profile. He was still walking forward, but this time his steps were smaller. It was as if he was cooperating with her. Luo's heart softened. She coaxed, "Don't be angry. I'll compensate you." He planted a kiss behind her ear, and without giving her a chance to say no, he started the second round. She was so domineering that there wasn't a trace of childishness in her. Luo didn't know when she woke up. When she opened her eyes, she remembered that she was in the car. Chapter 1759. She didn't know if it was because the voice was very close to her ear. It was deep and husky. It was very magnetic. Luo didn't know if all young people were like this. Every word seemed to melt into her heart. It was so direct that she couldn't reject him. The temperature in the car couldn't cool down. It was a lingering feeling. When he carried her horizontally and placed her on the bed, he leaned down and kissed her softly. Everything felt like a dream that she didn't want to wake up from. This time, Luo finally understood. He didn't like her mentioning the value of the gift to him. Luo couldn't understand. The next day, she asked her friend. She only got one reply. There are two possibilities. 1. He is too scheming. What's a car? From an economic point of view, he will only get more if he stays with you for a long time. If that's the case, this kind of boy is considered smart and can keep his composure. Or, he likes you too much. He is talking about feelings with you but you are talking about money with him. You are really, wait a minute, he isn't even willing to talk about money with you. Luo replied with a MMH, and didn't say anything else. She decided to communicate with him directly. She sent him a message. Are you unhappy that I gave you a car? The other party replied very quickly. Before I realize its use, I am a little unhappy. Boss Lu, you can't keep me as a pet. I'm your boyfriend. Luo thought for a moment and typed. Is there anything else? Anything else? Bo-in lay on the bed. He reached out with one hand and grabbed the faint sunlight. He frowned. Without her around, he disliked the sunlight even more. Luo took a pen and signed a document. Then, she replied, You don't like other things. Many. Bo-in sent a voice message. He purposely lowered his voice as though he was abandoned by his owner. You ate with other men and made me wait at home. I didn't have the mood to sleep. Luo paused. It's a business event. I can't avoid it. As expected, this was the answer. Bo-in continued. His voice was casual. You watched other people play games for an hour. Luo was in the wrong. After she knew about the silver-haired youngster, she kept searching for his competition videos. In the past, she didn't think much of the game. However, ever since she found out about Spade Z, every time she saw the youngster fighting 1 against 3 in the game, Luo felt like laughing. She was so handsome when she played, but she also had the cuteness of a little tiger. She wasn't sure if it was just her imagination. She's still sending gifts in that person's live stream room. Bo Yin's voice became even more casual. I don't think she's live streaming. Luo laughed softly. You really like to get jealous. Jealous? Hers? I don't think so. Bo Yin glanced sideways at the pillow in the living room. His gaze was indifferent. If you want a pillow in the future, I can take a photo and make it into a pillow for you to hug. Luo listened to him but didn't say anything. Forget it, you should go take a picture and make it into a pillow for me to hug. Bo Yin frowned as the light intensified. He shifted and said in a low voice, it's boring to sleep when you're not here. Luo's fingers stopped moving. She coaxed softly, I'll go back earlier today. Chapter 1760. Tomorrow. Luo looked at her work for the next 2 days. She marked one of the meetings with a pen and said, isn't there 4 to 5 days before the world competition? Bo Yin stood up and pulled the curtains. There's an internal meeting. Luo raised her eyebrows. She didn't ask how he knew. It seemed like she wasn't good at chasing after her idol. However, the team didn't announce their members' information. This meant that they didn't want anyone to know about their schedule. Her secretary had told her about it too. Esports players were usually under the most pressure before a competition. This time, it was probably because it was the world competition. After all, they had to give out some information after they landed. Internal meeting. Luo looked at many places but didn't mention it. Maybe someone bought some fake information from a scalper. There was nothing wrong with going to Milan a day earlier. She wanted to see that youngster in person. She wanted to see how he looked like. This was something Luo had never felt before. October 28th. This was the day that the Chinese esports fans were looking forward to the most. The official news was that all the players had arrived in Milan. They even threw out a map of the airport. It was a pity that they didn't inform them in advance. This way, they could see the real person. I envy the international students every day. I only saw the back of my big spade. I didn't even see his face. The rascals must be jet-lagged. That's why they didn't arrange for anyone to fetch them. It's an esports competition. There's no need to fetch them. Everyone, be rational. After all, the environment was different. Other people were fine. The moment Zhao Sanpang arrived, he laid down in the hotel softly. He told everyone to call him when there was food. If there was no food, he wasn't interested in sightseeing or relaxing. There's an event. It's an internal meeting. Bo Jiu patted his shoulder. Are you sure you don't want to show off your handsomeness? Zhao Sanpang waved his hand. This time, I really can't take it anymore. Give scheming Qin a chance. Qin Mo stood there, his side profile elegant. He didn't seem to have listened to him. Before he left, he reminded, Almighty Fatty's stomach is only suitable for porridge. You don't have to inform him about the gathering. Also, keep an eye on him and don't let him eat anything he wants, that's for sure. The private doctor pushed up his glasses. Zhao Sanpang. F***ck, he still wanted to open the instant noodles in his suitcase to satisfy his craving. This scheming Qin was basically cutting off his escape route. 5 in the afternoon. The dusk in Milan was beautiful. White pigeons could be seen flying under the European-style building and beside the hotel fountain. His laziness was on full display here. Because the World Series was approaching. Preparations had already begun in the square. Fans came one after another. Take a photo in advance as a souvenir. What's more, it just so happened that after all the teams finished their interviews, there would be an internal meet and greet. China was no exception. However, they didn't inform anyone, and they were overseas, so there wouldn't be many people coming here. Most of them ran to the CST area on the left. After all, in their eyes, the Huaxia team was not a threat. Since they were representing Asia this time, it was equivalent to giving CST a chance to win the championship. Judging from China's past achievements, they were no match for them at all. Chapter 1761. On the Chinese team's side, there was only a continuous stream of fans with logos stuck on their faces. But even so, it did not affect the excitement on their faces. Gradually, more and more people came. Some people even covered their mouths in front of them. The sound of Heroes' game rang out. As if warming up, the big screen began to roll the names of the teams that had made it to the finals. The construction of the stage had also reached the final stage. Everything in front of her was new to Lu Luo. After all, she rarely paid attention to celebrities. It was even rarer for him to walk with a group of youngsters like this. There was no sticker on her face either. Ever since there were more people, she stood in the line. He was dressed in a professional suit, and his gaze was calm, but it didn't make people feel that he was distant. Quite a number of fans in the same industry were already looking in her direction. After all, most of the people here were international students, and they were quite young. Lu Luo was undoubtedly eye-catching. What was even more eye-catching than her was the man standing beside her with a black umbrella. He hooked his lips into a smile, as if to say something. Why open an umbrella at this time? After a while, he walked away, as if to go shopping. Only then did the two girls in the queue open their mouths. "Sister, are you here to watch the competition with your boyfriend?" That handsome guy probably liked it, and this big sister accompanied him. After all, judging from her temperament, it seemed like that guy liked to play games. Lu Luo smiled softly. "He came with me." She doesn't look like any sports fan at all. The girls looked at each other in surprise. Lu Luo said honestly, "I just started reading it recently." "I'm here to see Z." Instantly, the two girls became even more excited. "Family." Lu Luo raised her eyebrows. She was still the same businesswoman. "Sister, we're Spade fans too." One of the girls smiled. "I'm a girlfriend fan." The other girl coughed. "If you're not afraid of Almighty Qin beating you to death, you can continue." "I realize that my big Spade has more and more big sister fans. I'm so happy." Lu Luo smiled as she listened to the conversation between the two youngsters. As the procession moved forward. Because of his height, he looked from this angle. Lu Luo could already see the scene in front of her. 7 or 8 youths sat at the long table. They were all dressed in black and red combat uniforms. Some were drinking water, while others were smiling. One of them had a handsome face, and the curve of his face was overflowing from the corner of his eyes. He exuded a youthful aura, and his hair fell down to cover his ears. His hair was not silver gray, but black, which represented the East. Among so many people, the youngster's signature should be the slowest. Because he could still hear someone laughing on the other side. His hand speed is all used for playing games. Unlike Senior Lin Feng, who only uses it to hit planes. The young man leaned back and looked at the person beside him evilly. Sigh, there's always sorrow. Lin Feng. Would he be able to walk out of here alive after beating this person up? If you want to sign, just sign. Why are you saying such obscene things? Lin Feng was exasperated. Pay attention to your image. They might hear you. Bo Jiu shook her hands. I feel more tired than going to high school. I should invent a seal. If you continue talking, it will become a scene where you lose fans. Lin Feng reminded her. Bo Jiu smiled. It's more tiring to queue up. I understand, I'm just lazy. It's rare to see someone as lazy and righteous as you. Lin Feng cupped his fists. I'm impressed. This was a tease when signing autographs. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.